Hey, what's up, guys? It's Brando here at the Blue Devil Den. Going over real quick, Joe Lunardi's bracketology update here. Interesting to say enough, SEC teams have been dominating the game right now in college basketball. They've been doing really well. We've seen several of their games, and they're looking extremely dominant in those games. So I, who am completely unbiased and not a big SEC guy, would have to agree here with Joe. SEC teams have been dominating. Alabama might be getting this #1 seed when the updated rankings come out. But looking really good here. They got 13 teams projected to be in. The Big Ten sitting at 10. Big 12 with 8, and the ACC struggling with 4 teams in right now. Big East coming in at 4. Mountain West with 3. And the WCC Conference sitting with 2. And you already know who those guys are. Probably Gonzaga and St. Mary's. Watch out for St. Francis if they can get an upset bid in that conference tournament. Well, moving right along here, we have the South region. Through Atlanta, we have #1 Auburn going up against probably American or SIU Edwardsville is what the projection is. Auburn should destroy them as Auburn, even though they did lose their most recent game to Florida. Watch out, this team's going to go for a deep run this year. 8 Creighton at #9 Baylor. Creighton starting to get some steam now. They started off a little bit early on struggling. Going to be a good matchup here between Creighton and Baylor, and honestly, a great setup for 8 and 9. I'm going to have to go ahead and say Creighton on this one. Baylor's been a little bit more inconsistent as of late, struggling on the offensive end, so Creighton in that one for my pick. #5, Memphis at 12, George Mason. Memphis, I haven't seen any of these guys' games, to be honest with you, but if I had to take a guess here, it looks like Memphis has been doing pretty well based on the record that I'm looking at. I'm going to go ahead and say Memphis on this one in the Providence region. 4, Michigan State at 13, Arkansas State. Michigan State finally getting back on track with a win here, struggling a little bit with a couple back-to-back losses in conference play. But expect Tom Izzo to do well here in March, getting past #13, Arkansas State Red Wolves. Moving along to the Cleveland region, #6, Michigan at 11, Vanderbilt or San Diego State. Michigan is starting to get up, moving along again. I'm going to go ahead and pick Michigan in this one. Their offensive play has been okay. Defensive side might need a little bit of work, but I like what I've seen out of the one game I did see of Michigan. #3, Marquette at 14, Jacksonville State. Marquette, watch them to make a nice little run here, even though they've been struggling a little bit. They are still a top 15 team, and they play in the Big East, right? So you put them in the SEC conference, they're probably going to be just above middle of the road, but they deserve to be in this tournament, and they should handle Jacksonville State for sure. Might go to the Sweet 16 or further, we'll find out. 7, Mississippi State at 10, Utah State. I'm going to go ahead and say Mississippi State wins this one here. Again, I'm unbiased. You'd think with all the predictions I've made so far that the SEC teams are just completely dominant, and I am biased, but I'm not, I promise. There's just a lot of SEC teams in this tournament. So Mississippi State gets the win over Utah State. And 2, Houston, I would say definitely destroys Bryant for sure. They're very good efficiently, both on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. If my pick was being made today with this bracket, I'm going to go ahead and say that Auburn does clear out this side of the bracket and makes it to their Final Four. Auburn just super dominant on the offensive and defensive side. And if they're playing in a neutral court, really decide it for yourselves, but I'm going to go ahead and pick them any day of the week. They're looking fantastic this year. We'll see what happens, guys, but I'm going to go ahead and pick Auburn here in the South region. Now, our second region that we're going to take a look at is the West region out of San Francisco. We have it projected right now with Tennessee going up against Norfolk State. Tennessee going to easily destroy that team. Tennessee's been looking really good. We've seen a couple of their games now this year. So I picked Tennessee to go for a really deep run, to be honest with you. And 8, Clemson with a huge win over my Duke Blue Devils, which was extremely sad. Man, that Clemson team was ready to play that night. Even though Duke wasn't playing its best game, and it was on the road, Clemson did look really good there. I'm going to pick Clemson. Maybe make a nice little deep run here in the tournament, honestly. But I picked Clemson to beat #9 West Virginia in this setup here. 5, St. John's at 12, McNeese State. Watch out for St. John's. This team is on the rise. Rick Pitino's got them moving and grooving, baby. Really good game against UConn. They got the job done on the road. Says a lot about Rick Pitino, what he's done so far for St. John's. Really proud of what they're doing. I know he's very accomplished as a coach. But, guys, watch this team in the tournament. So, St. John's beats McNeese here in this matchup. 4, Wisconsin at 13, Samford. Wisconsin, kind of under the radar, might be a dark horse pick for a lot of people. Now, playing some really good basketball, very consistent, really good coach and great guard. Wisconsin beat Samford here in the opening round, but watch out. You don't want to see a setup like this where there's an upset with Samford beating Wisconsin. You got to watch out for those 13 seeds. So we'll see how it goes, but I would pick Wisconsin. 6, Missouri at 11, Nebraska. Oh, this one's a tough one for me because you know, guys, if you follow my channel, you know that I'm a Nebraska fan through and through. Nebraska's been a little bit more consistent. I would like to make this pick after today's game against Ohio State, as Ohio State had just beaten a ranked team as well. They're coming into Lincoln today. But you know what? Off the cuff here, we're going to go ahead and pick the Huskers. There's got to be an upset, right? So we're going to pick number 11, Nebraska, upsetting number 6, Missouri. However, Missouri did do very well on the road against Tennessee. We enjoyed that game, watching that on my live stream. But watch out. This is going to be a good game for the Huskers here. I'm taking the Huskers winning this one in an upset. Number 3, Iowa State at Northern Colorado. Iowa State, guys, great team this year. As far as the Big 12 conference goes, maybe this isn't their best year. They're still kind of up there a little bit. Kansas having a down year themselves. But Iowa State should get this one done against Northern Colorado in this matchup. 7, Oregon, and 10, Georgia. Guys, Oregon is kind of slipping right now. If they continue to lose games the way they have been losing, they might find themselves in the NIT tournament, not the NCAA tournament. Georgia, I'm going to go ahead and pick an upset here. I think Georgia takes down Oregon in this matchup. On the defensive end, Oregon doesn't seem to want to pose much of a threat. They can shoot offensively if they get to clicking with their point guard. But I'm going to go ahead and pick Georgia in upset here against Oregon. 2, Texas A&M against 15, Central Connecticut. Texas A&M throttles Central Connecticut in this matchup. They are a very solid team. We've watched a little bit of one game. Still like to watch more of their games. We'll see if we can catch 1 or 2 before the tournament starts up here. And if I'm making my pick today, I'm going to go ahead and actually say that Tennessee does get it done. We've seen a couple of their games now. Offensively efficient, defensively efficient. They can get up, out in space. They have not done very well lately in the tournament in terms of their history. But you know what? Tennessee's looking good. It's a whole new year for them. I like what their coach is doing. Great team to watch. They're going to make a nice little run here, guys. Now heading to our third region here, we have 1 Duke up against 16 Omaha or Merrimack. Me being from Nebraska, I'm going to say Omaha makes and wins that play-in game and goes up against Duke, but to get throttled by the Duke Blue Devils. Duke takes that one in an easy win against Omaha. Gonzaga 8-9 Ohio State. Both teams starting to find some rhythm here. Guys, watch out for Ohio State. They've been doing some good stuff. It's kind of crazy to say that they actually just beat another ranked team. They're playing Nebraska today. We're looking to see how that goes. But I'm going to go ahead and say Gonzaga loses this one against Ohio State in a small upset of a 9 over an 8 seed. Ohio State moves on to that one to play Duke. 5, UCLA at 12 Yale. UCLA kind of kicking on all cylinders right now as well. I'm going to pick UCLA in an upset over that one. Excuse me, not an upset, but UCLA destroys Yale in this one. 4, Kentucky at 13, Lipscomb. Lipscomb's going to have a really tough time against Kentucky. I actually watched the Lipscomb game the other day. They are going to be completely outmatched. Physically, the size difference is just tremendously different. Kentucky destroys Lipscomb in that one. 6, Maryland at 11, BYU or Wake Forest. What a game that is for Maryland. That is a very tough draw. BYU or Wake Forest could get that done in an upset pick. Now, Maryland did just recently lose, so we'll see how that goes for Maryland, but I'm going to go ahead and pick Maryland to win this one in a closely contested matchup. 3, Kansas at 14, Cleveland State. Kansas, man, they've had an up-and-down season as far as Kansas' terms would go, but I see Kansas at least winning this one in the first opening round. Bill Self moves on to the round of 32 over Cleveland State here. 7, UConn at 10, Oklahoma. You know what, guys? I watched UConn play the other night against, excuse me, who was UConn playing the other night? I can't remember who it was off the top of my head. St. John's, we were just talking about that. St. John's looked really good. UConn, though they were going kind of up and down, they were playing at home. They're not the same UConn that's back-to-back national champions. And defensively, they have their struggles, to be honest with you. Oklahoma, we watched one of their games the other night. Oklahoma looked pretty good. I don't think Oklahoma is going to have enough horses to go up against UConn, so I'm going to go ahead and pick UConn here, winning against Oklahoma in this matchup. But that would be one of the better games of the opening round. Lastly, here we have Florida against Towson. Florida's been looking really good offensively. I'm going to go ahead and pick Florida to win against Towson. Shouldn't be too big of a problem for the Gators here. And my pick in this region, you already know it's going to be Duke out of the East region to the Final Four. I like this setup here. Their toughest matchup's probably going to be Kansas or maybe UConn or Florida in the Elite Eight. But we'll see what happens. I got Duke winning the East region in this one, guys. Now our fourth and final region, we have in the Midwest, Alabama at 1, Southern at 16. Alabama gets it done and might potentially be number 1 here this week when the new rankings come out. We're excited to see what happens. And unfortunately, Duke had lost that one. So Alabama wins against Southern. 8, St. Mary's at 9, New Mexico. Guys, St. Mary's looking really, really good on the season. I know that they had just recently lost a tough game against St. Francis, and that's okay. But St. Mary's, you wouldn't expect it out of them, but they do get it done year in and year out, and they're pretty consistent. St. Mary's gets it done here again against the 9 New Mexico Lobos. 5, Ole Miss at UC Irvine. Ole Miss, I've seen a few of their games now. I'm sold on them. I think that they're going to make a nice little run. Might have an upset here, potentially, against Alabama in the tournament. We'll see if that plays out. They'll have to get through Arizona or Akron first here in this instance. But Ole Miss gets the win against UC Irvine. For Arizona at 13, Akron. We had just watched last night on our live stream. Arizona got it done at home against a really tough Texas Tech team. Man, Arizona gets it done offensively and defensively. The problem that they have is their turnovers. They have got to be better with the ball. If they can get it done, Tommy Lloyd's team is going to go deep in this tournament this year for Arizona. 6, Illinois at 11, Drake. Illinois starting to struggle a little bit. You know what? They were doing really good at the beginning of the year. Watch out for this one. I'm going to go ahead and pick Drake for the upset here in this instant in the Denver area. So Drake moves on to the round of 32 with a nice little upset here against Illinois. 3, Texas Tech at Utah Valley. Yeah, guys, Texas Tech, they did have some issues yesterday offensively. When they get hot, they get really hot. And if they do that, poor Utah Valley is going to get destroyed in this instance here. Texas Tech should get it done against Utah Valley with a nice little game matchup against Drake in the round of 32. Now we move along here to the final area. Louisville at 7 and Texas at 10. In this instance here, I really like Louisville. Now, they've had a better year in terms of how Louisville's been. They used to be really fantastic when Rick Pitino was coaching them, but they're getting back to their old ways here. I have Louisville coming out of the ACC, beating Texas in the NCAA tournament. And now finally to Purdue at UNC Asheville. Purdue has been looking really good. A lot of people aren't talking about Purdue, but they're finding ways to get it done game in and game out. There's a reason why they're sitting at this 2 seed, and I think they get it done against UC Asheville. And finally, I'm going to pick Purdue to win this whole region. They've been doing really good, and we can't have all 1 seed. So as it sits right now, guys, I got Duke, Purdue, Auburn, and Tennessee in my Final Four. I like those guys making it down to the Final Four based on Joe Lunardi's bracket, but let's be honest here, guys. I don't know what I'm talking about. Joe Lunardi doesn't necessarily know what he's talking about, and you probably don't either. This is so much fun watching these games. It's fun. We're not playing. We get the enjoyment of just being able to enjoy other people doing what they love. So it's great watching the games. But, guys, it's going to be a fun NCAA tournament. It is every year. It's one of my favorite times of the year, if not my absolute favorite. So we're going to continue going live. We're going live today at 1 o'clock to watch Ohio State in Nebraska. Tune in for that if you're interested in it. But definitely subscribe to the channel, like the videos. And as always, thanks for joining the Blue Devil Den. We'll catch you guys next time.